I've been coupling carnivore with a GLP-1 for 8 months, and today I'm going to share with you my DEXA and my lab results. Today's episode is brought to you by my free community found at radicallyhealthy.com, where you'll get support in adding things like a GLP-1 to your meaty movement toolbox so you can look and feel your best. Hope to see you there. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Adrienne. I've tried everything to lose weight and get a hold of these chronic autoimmune conditions I've been having my whole life. I've tried everything from going on The Biggest Loser to gastric bypass to portioning out all my foods and running half marathons and low carb and low fat and keto and carnivore and sardine fasting and lion dieting. I feel like I've tried it all. And it wasn't until I coupled a meat-based diet, lifting, with a GLP-1 that life just changed. So if you're not familiar with GLP-1, it's also known as Ozempic, Zepbound, Wegovy, Mounjaro. All right, so just a quick background. I've been overweight my whole life. I've had very strange symptoms that had caused me to lean into trying to get well. So some of those weird symptoms are struggling to get pregnant, having no milk supply with my babies, despite doing all of the things. Every baby I tried harder and harder and harder with all of the things. Still no milk supply. Skin rashes, chronic weight gain, chronic fatigue, brain fog, low sex drive, arms and legs going numb, neuropathy, food reactions, intrusive thoughts, chronic anxiety, mood issues, PMDD, where you're just like, everything's cringy before your period. And then I had the gastric bypass, and that caused a race of issues from nutrient deficiencies, chronic anemia, chronic reactive hypoglycemia. My joints hurt. I had white patches all over my skin. I couldn't sleep. I was peeing 6 times an hour. And the list goes on and on. So I was trying, first I went to the allopathic medicine and they honestly didn't help. They told me it was in my head and gave me mental health medication. They told me I was totally normal. They could never find anything wrong with me. After my 4th baby, still not having work, still not having milk, that's when I switched to functional practitioners, where they were like, whoa, your adrenals are in the tank, your thyroid's in the tank, you've got Hashimoto's, you've got a range of autoimmune conditions, maybe you've got long Ovid-K, something here is way off. And if you don't turn this ship around, you're going to end up in the hospital or a skilled nursing facility type of thing. So that's when I was already reducing everything. Prior to even getting pregnant with number 4, I had removed all dairy, wheat, all chemicals, anything artificial, and I was down to whole foods, primarily a lot of chicken, a lot of quail, a lot of eggs, and some green beans and lettuce. It really wasn't much because I was having so many food reactions, and that hypoglycemia was happening all the time. Even with the small amount of plant that I was eating, I was still having this hypoglycemia. Eventually, I ended up getting so sick that my dad actually said, hey, why don't you try the carnivore diet? It was like a whole new world. I really thought that just the carnivore diet was going to solve my chronic weight gaining issues and heal my autoimmune, and it was going to be amazing. And I did live in bliss for months, and you can find those interviews all over the internet. When I was on my pink cloud, it did help with so many things, and I haven't had chronic anxiety since. There's been other issues that I'll go into that GLP-1 has helped with. Another thing is I was having this chronic hypoglycemia, and it didn't seem like it was related to food because I really was unbelievably low carb. We're talking like green beans, lettuce, maybe some cucumbers, maybe some squash here and there, and then low fat meat. So cutting the veg and going carnivore, it reduced enough stress on my body and helped my adrenals enough that I stopped having those plummets completely. It was like being able to swim and you're like, oh yay, my head's above water, but like only your mouth is above water, and like sometimes it would go under and you'd have to hold your breath a little bit, and then you'd work really hard, you pop back up. That's what I felt like with my weight on carnivore. So I started carnivore in about November of 2022, but I really still had some green beans and some coffee creamer, that International Delight. Now that's just disgusting. I would never buy that. It just tastes like chemicals now. I fully cut those January 2023. I've been carnivore 2.5 years now. Even though I was carnivore, I'm still struggling a couple years in, even after doing several months of lion diet. I'm still struggling with memory, fatigue. I'm still having this chronic inflammation. I'm still having PMDD where and then my cycles on carnivore went from 28 to 21 days. And it was like 21 days of heck.
It was awful. There would be like 1 day of reprieve in those 21 days. And I let that go on for a year of having this. I had significant hair loss where like 2/3 of my hair just fell out just every day for 6 months. There was like stuff going on, and diet alone was absolutely not healing it. And I think actually being so restrictive, because I would just continue to restrict more and more and remove things. Like there was no sweetener, there was no coffee, there was no dairy. I found out eggs were inflammatory, so we cut the eggs for a while. I found out, chicken and pork, those aren't the cleanest meat, so I cut them. And like really, I was primarily just eating beef and still having all of these issues. I was also having poor body temperature control, like horrible, and just so tired, but not sleeping. So it was in March of 2024 when I did the Lion diet, like I think it was February, March. It was like a 2-month thing. And my body just blew up. I literally gained 14 pounds in 3 days, like hyperinflammation attacks on the Lion diet. And that's when I realized that carnivoring harder wasn't going to be the answer. So I just kind of sat back and I knew I needed something. So the first thing I did was go to a functional doctor and ask for bioidentical hormone replacement therapy and thyroid medicine. So I got put on some T3 and some progesterone cream. The T3 did not stop my weight gain. I continued to gain weight, continued to have fatigue. It really, there was a level that my doctor was comfortable giving me, and it wasn't enough. The thyroid or the progesterone cream, that made a huge difference. That made my cycles go from 21 days back to the 28 days. It got rid of some of the PMDD, the cringies, but I had to cycle it. And when I was off of it, I felt horrible. All of the symptoms would return when I would have to cycle off of it. I did not lose the weight with those two tools. Like I was still stuck. Like in a 1 month period, I gained like 20 pounds. In carnivore, I started out at 202. My very lowest was like 156. I don't know exactly, but most of my carnivore was between like 159 and 172. Like I just kept going back and forth. And when I gained my weight, I was up to 184. So that was after 2 years of carnivore. My body and at that point, I had been doing challenge after challenge and not in a deficit, guys. Before you're like, well, that's because you were in a deficit. Nope, I was tracking and I was consistently eating between 1,800 calories and 2,500 calories, sometimes higher, never lower than 1,800. And before you say, well, that's why you gained weight, you were eating 1,800 calories. Well, I was also walking 12 miles a day and lifting 3 times a week. So I was absolutely in a deficit, and yet my body just blew up. So let's see here. So I did start with the bioidentical hormones and the thyroid support, hoping that was the magic sauce because I knew that my thyroid numbers were low, but I was still struggling. So other things I tried to heal, because clearly there's something wrong. If you just chronically gain weight, you're having all these hormone issues, you're so tired, you can't remember your cousin's name, you can't remember what you did last week. I'm struggling to even get out of the kitchen because I'm just standing there, and the thought of having to put the fork away and then grab a water and then grab my supplements and then walk to the bathroom to brush my teeth and then go to bed, it was all just too overwhelming. So I would just get stuck. Like everything was overwhelming. This is into carnivore. I would sit in my car and I'd be so overwhelmed with having to grab things out of the car and walk to the front door that I would just get stuck in my car for like ever. Like I'd sit there for an hour because I was too overwhelmed mentally and physically to just walk inside the house. I also tried, we tried to remove ourselves from mold, which we moved 5 times. I was walking in the sun. I was getting consistent fascia work to try to open up my pathways. I tried 1,000 supplements. I tried parasite cleanse, heavy metal protocols. And everybody around me started losing their mind. I mean, I'm just like, I'm a hardworking person. I'm a really hardworking person. And I'm throwing the kitchen sink at not feeling well, and I'm still not feeling well. Okay, so that's when my husband said to me, honey, I need you to start. And he said this before the thyroid and the hormones. He said, I need you to start getting more tools. You need something so you can function, and it's probably going to come from the medical system. And we have to function here. We cannot sit like this. We have to function. So I knew like this was hurting my family unless I started figuring out more tools. So I sat back. That's when I heard Dr. Amy Jimin and Dr. Tina Moore talk about, and this was in August, talk about how GLP-1 medications like Ozempic and Zepbound can actually help people with autoimmune conditions. And they started talking too about how insulin resistance is highly underdiagnosed and that we really don't even have great blood tests for it. We have all these people struggling, and these GLP-1s seem to help. The big ticket though for me was Dr. Tina said to Callie Means, because Callie was pushing back on her that we shouldn't ever take big pharma. They're just out to get us. And she said, have you ever worked with a mold patient? They cannot lose weight. They cannot keep the weight off, and their inflammation is chronic. Have you ever worked with one of them? And she said these were amazing for that. And so even though it goes against everything in my community that my community stood for, even though they're so demonized, even though I was going to eat dirt because I've been scolding my family members for taking them for years, I knew I had to give it a try. And so in September of 2024 is when I gave it a try. Here's some other things they said it could help with. It says the GLP-1 crosses the blood-brain barrier and reduces inflammation. It can help improve brain fog, anxiety, fatigue. It can reduce oxidative stress. I have a lot of that. It can lower systematic inflammation, which drives down the cytokine storms and the self-reactive immune system loops. It said it can better regulate the overreaction of Th17, which just really helps regulate your immune system, which they're showing, a lot of studies are showing benefits in people who have rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis, MS, Sjögren's syndrome, and even some people with autism. It improves your mitochondrial function. It helps with the energy, the cellular energy production. Let's see here. So it can really help reduce fatigue and muscle weakness, and it improves leptin signaling, insulin resistance, glycemic control. That was a big one because I'm also having this reactive hypoglycemia, and they were saying, hey, this actually helps you respond appropriately to your food, where previously if I ate too many green beans cooked down, I was having hypoglycemia from that small amount of carbohydrate. So it can change the inflammatory load, and it can improve your sleep. It normalizes your appetite signaling, reduces your night eating. It helps with the cortisol melatonin balance, can help with pain, cravings. It can build momentum. Some things that I was worried about were, I already have this overproduction of insulin. What if it produced more and I had this chronic hypoglycemia even worse? That was something I was worried about. Slowing of gastric emptying can affect the prescriptions you're taking. Sometimes if you have a horrible case of SIBO, the slowing of the gastric can affect that and make that worse. Rapid fat loss mobilizes toxins. And I already struggle. If I took, let's say, a sauna, I could get like a flu from the mobilization of the toxins. Now, they say those were temporary, and yeah. And then of course there's the common things people talk about like muscle loss and stuff like that. But Dr. Tina talked about how if we eat our meat and do our lifting and stay low and slow, how we'd maintain our muscle. Okay, so I started it. And for the first month, I literally peed day and night. I mean, the weight just flew off and there was so much peeing. I know I lost so much inflammation. And here's the crazy part. Since then, instead of peeing 6 times an hour, I pee maybe 3 to 4 times a day. Like for the first time in 10 years, I'm normal peeing. So this isn't a diuretic form of anti-inflammation. It's actually addressing inflammation at the root, which is helping the diuretic hormones. And so I'm not producing pee anymore. Some of my fluid is actually sticking these days. One thing that helps is I use Coco Loco. It's a type of electrolyte by, it's called Salty by Keto Chow. And if you use the link in my description, you can save 10%, but this is so good on ice. So I've never had a problem since being on a GLP-1 keeping my fluids in because this tastes so good. And I drink 2 of them a day. I put it in like a 40-ounce cup every day and I drink 2 of these. So I'm keeping my electrolytes and I'm keeping my fluid. One more sip. It's so good. It's unbelievable. I would never think I would want to drink chocolate water, but it's so good. Even my kids love it. Anyway, so I lost all this inflammation. I start getting energy. I start getting brain power. This is while I'm still stuck in a home that has like 1,000 times the black mold that is safe for inhabiting. So I'm still stuck in a moldy house, but these peptides were still helping me reduce this inflammation and get some of my function back. Not all of it, some of it. The tire that was permanently around my midsection just kind of slooped away. And I'm going to, that's a lot of hormone and inflammation. It just kind of, I started sleeping better and having more energy. My hair and my skin and my nails started getting better. I stopped having as many food reactions, I noticed. And my brain had already been better from carnivore, but it got even better on GLP-1. And I'm talking like I can get a text from my ex-husband, which previously used to give me PTSD because it's not a good situation. And now it's just kind of like not my circus. So it's given a further calm that is just unbelievable. It's crazy the mental the brain inflammation that it helped with. I'd love to have another neuroquant because I had one last year before this and it showed my brain swelling. And it would be cool to see how much the brain swelling has gone down. Again, the constant peeing is gone. Finally, as I'm doing these super hard things, I started seeing weight loss. And before, I could move the scale like 10 pounds if I worked really, really hard to a perfection level. The second I stopped tracking something that I put in my mouth, the second I didn't walk 12 miles a day, I gained all my weight back. So it was amazing to be doing these things and to see the scale going. And you're like, is it going to keep going? And I was losing weight so fast that I actually had to slow down on all the hard things I was doing just to move the needle a pound before. And now it was moving at like 20, 30 pounds. And so I had to slow down because I didn't want to lose my hair or kill my metabolism or lose muscle. I was very, very serious about those things. The blood sugar, I was able to try some things like yogurt without my blood sugar dropping, where previously there was no room for anything with even natural sugar in it. Let's see here. I did give a couple things a try that are going to make some people cringe. I did add more dairy back, and I even tried some wheat. And not only did my blood sugar not drop, but I didn't get the bloat and I didn't get any food reactions. But the question here, as I go into like the real topic of the day is, did it affect my immune system inside? Like, what did the labs look like when I added those foods back? So before I go into the labs too, I don't want to be deceitful. I want to tell you that I tried more than GLP-1. Here's a couple of the other peptides that I've been cycling that are great for people with autoimmune, anybody who's got healing to do, hormone issues, stuff like that. So TB500, it is great for tissue and mitochondrial repair. PPC 157, amazing for gut repair and inflammation. KPV, it calms mast cells and gut inflammation. GKCU, it's great for tissue healing and anti-fibrosis. DSIP is for trying to get better sleep. And then there's a whole bunch I want to give a try, but those are some of the ones that I've been cycling. It's not a consistent thing. It's not an everyday thing, but those are some things that could contribute or have an effect on these labs as well. Okay. So first I want to show you what was it like. Okay. So hopefully this comes over okay when my editor works with this. Sorry, Stefan. Okay. So this was my weight when I went carnivore. I started out 205, I guess. And it was a party time right here. You see it looks like 80 days of, and then the troubles start. And I can tell you when I started going back up again, that's when I had to start implementing other things. Like I started implementing like fasting and joining challenges. And that's where you can see the ups and the downs because we're adding things in here. Okay, so that's 2023 for you. And going into 2024, you can see I'm still having issues, up, down, up, down. And this is me doing challenges. This is me pushing myself, tracking, and every time I take a breath, which again, taking a breath doesn't mean ice cream. Taking a breath means I didn't track or walk 12 miles a day, but I'm still a strict carnivore because if I'm not, I get reactive hypoglycemia. This still means no sweetener. This still means no coffee, very low or no dairy. And then you can see in the red on the very end where I just had enough. My body, I was tired and I had nothing left in me after a year and a half, 2 years of carnivoring. I had nothing left in me to fight the inflammation. You can see how fast it came on, the weight, the fat. And then this next one, this is me on GLP. You can see a little bit of up down, but it's not the same. Overall, it kind of trends down towards the very end there. You'll see some up down. And what is that? That's me in maintenance, but playing with BPC 157. And when I take BPC 157, I see big dips. Oh, but even these dips, you can see they're not that many pounds, where the previous dips, we're talking, I don't know. Well, you can see the lowest would be 155 and then the highest we're back up to 165. So we're talking 10-pound swings over there. Over here, we're talking 5 pounds maybe, but this is really due to some of the BPC stuff I'm doing. Okay, so let's go into the DEXA. I want to tell you about the DEXA, and that is that I actually don't have good comparison. So we're going to kind of give you what I got, and I'm going to tell you why it's not a good comparison. So my DEXAs were done in my good days of carnivore. It was not done at the top of this red. So getting a green one, which is where I got it, getting a green one doesn't really help us in saying what did Adrienne lose, what did her body change on a GLP-1 specifically. So I don't have one in the red. Okay, so the recent scan that I'm going to compare my good scan from carnivore to, I did recently get an A. You can kind of see the weight is still, I've got legs and booty there. It says my body age is 35. I think that's really good considering I'm actually 41. So 6 years younger, according to my body, than it was. I'm going to go first into body fat percentage. So I'm currently at 24.8. And in my good days of carnivore, I was at 27.1. So, but if I were to do math of the red time, I would guess I definitely didn't start GLP-1 at 27. I started GLP-1 at 30 or 35% fat. And now I'm 24% fat. So big fat difference. Oh, that was funny. Big fat difference. Sorry. Okay, let's see here. So that is the fat. Now, visceral fat, this is an indicator that my chronic weight gain that I had on that red swing was very hormonal, okay? Because my visceral fat over here in my good times was 0.57 and the previous year it was 0.49. So you can see the previous year is 0.49. And then I gained visceral fat despite doing strict carnivore and strict exercise. I'm gaining visceral fat because my hormones are not doing well. And then we've got the big red swing here, hormones doing horrible. And now my visceral fat is, despite doing really healthy things, my visceral fat had gone up. The good news is that GLP-1 really slays that visceral fat. So I'm hoping over time, continued with lifestyle changes, that visceral fat will calm down, I'm hoping, instead of the trend that I was on before GLP-1, which was the visceral fat was going up. Okay, so let's see here. So we've got, okay, lean mass. This one is a tough one for you guys to compare to. So my current lean mass is 100 pounds. My previous lean mass was 114. However, I was in that, even though that was my green time of carnivore, I was still having 14-pound swings of inflammation every 21 days. Like, I was highly inflamed even on my good days of carnivore. And the thing about the DEXA, first of all, these are also two separate companies. And even when you change the algorithm in the same company, your numbers can change. And so to be two totally separate companies, we're not necessarily comparing apples to apples here. But I got to tell you that a DEXA cannot tell really the difference between muscle, water, bones, organs, connective tissues, etc. It doesn't really separate those. They're all in one. So when it's just assuming that you have a normal level of inflammation when it's taking your scan. So when you see a 14-pound drop like that, it even says right when you read the DEXA, it says rapid or significant drops in a short period usually are due to fluid shifts and not actual muscle loss. And I feel it. Like I can see my muscle. I can see it. And it's actually been phenomenal. I thought I would have way more flab on top of my muscle, but it's really, I feel like the fat has been melting away, and I can finally see that I was lifting over these past 20 years. I was consistently lifting, and the GLP-1 seems to have melted that off, and now I can see it. Okay, so that is the muscle and the fat. Okay, so then we've got the bone. And this is an indicator to me that I really nourished myself during this whole thing, because here is 6 pounds. This is my current score. And my previous one, it's in the, I wish I could point to it. It's on the right side towards the top. It says bone mineral. I can't really read it, but it's 5.7. So my previous score was 5.7. Now I am a 6, so it didn't go down. This could be different just because of the different calculations from the different systems, but we'll take it, okay? Now, if you look in the yellow on this one, that is my score, and I think it says 2.5. And today, let me see if I can find it. I might have added it down here. 1 second. No, did I not add it? Okay, well, my current score is also a 2.5. My current T-score is exactly the same as it was before. Also, if you look here, it gives me a TDEE. Where do I find it? Okay, right here on the left side about mid, it says 1484. 1484 was my previous resting metabolic rate. Today's is 1456. So as you can see, according to the scans, I did not whomp my resting metabolic rate with a GLP-1. I didn't. It's pretty much the same based on my muscle mass. Win. Okay. So like I said, it gave me an A, and I'm 6 years younger than I really am. So despite I don't like seeing that 14-pound loss, but honest to God, I think that was water, because I am so chronically inflamed. And as we go into the labs, you'll see just how inflamed, because I have the trends for you. We won't have to go back and forth like we did with the DEXA scans. Okay, so that's what's going on there. Bone health and resting metabolic rate. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you as far as labs is just glucose. And this is not super, super, super helpful because it starts in 2023. This is 7-8 months into carnivore, and see, it's a 91. But I was carnivore for a long time into this as it was dropping down. So I'm just between carnivore and a GLP-1, I've come down significantly in my fasted glucose. The next one I wanted to show you guys, because if you look at my channel, you'll see I did a lot of sardine fasting. And one of the things people will say is, you're poisoning yourself with heavy metals. And so I did a heavy metal test, and it came back totally fine, within range or undetected. Okay, next. Before I bring up this lab, I want to tell you, one of the labs for the chronically inflamed people is called MSH. And if you have a low MSH, you have chronic fatigue, you have sleep disturbances, increased pain sensitivity, leaky gut, you're susceptible to mold colonizing in your sinuses and your gut, low endorphin levels, you can have anxiety, depression, reduced resistance to infection, hormonal imbalances. So GLP-1 can reduce the systematic inflammation, which can improve your MSH. It can also improve your metabolic and your HPA axis, which you're improving your insulin sensitivity, you're lowering your leptin, you're stabilizing your glucose. All of those things help your MSH go up. MSH is made in the hypothalamus, and it's that's a very sensitive area to energy balance, leptin, and cortisol. And GLP-1 reduces hypothalamic inflammation, so we can have better MSH production. The reduced toxin burden from fat loss can also relieve the immune system that is suppressing the MSH. So GLP-1 can help increase MSH. It's not fully going to do it if you're still in a moldy home or you're still exposed to the toxin that's making you inflamed. So it's not a sole source, but it can help. One thing that's very interesting, if you talk to someone who has CIR, chronic inflammatory response syndrome, a lot of people even go through the entire protocol for years and they never get their MSH off of a 0. Even my doctor, the doctor I'm working with, he's still a 0 and he's well. He's back to running. He pulled himself out of retirement to help people like us. And his MSH is still a 0. But, okay, so mine was a 0 up until GLP-1 and, where did I put it? Sorry. Here it is. Now I'm an 11. That's so exciting because, so many people struggle to ever get that back up. I was never promised I would get it back up. Now, admittedly, I think if you're under a 30, you're still probably not doing well, but I'm detectable. I'll take it. Okay, so that's a big deal to me. And kind of going hand in hand with that is, I don't know how these got out of order. Sorry, is my vitamin D. Boom, boom, chakalaka. Okay. So vitamin D can increase for the exact same reasons on a GLP-1 that the MSH increases. And can I tell you, I had the 39.9. Oh, there was another one, and it must have been run at a different lab. I don't know why it's not on here. I had my vitamin D run in August of 2024, and it was a 40. So right before I went on this, after a summer in the sun with my kids, I had this lab run after I had taken a 2 or 3 week road trip with my kids to Florida. So we got a lot of sun, and it was still a 40. I went on a GLP-1 in September, and now I'm in the 70s. Now, functional people would say we still want that higher, but I'm just saying I've been in a 40 and a 20 for years. I don't know if I've ever tested higher than a 40 in my life, ever. So that is amazing and huge. I didn't take vitamin D supplements. Don't tell my doctor. I didn't do it. And this is the other crazy part. Before I had these labs, I was in Minnesota. It's the middle of the winter. It's not like I was getting vitamin D outside. And right before I had these 2 labs, each one of them, I took a cruise. So each cruise, I absorbed all the sun that I absorbed it through my skin. And part of that's like a correlation with the MSH2 and hormones. And anyway, I'm celebrating, you guys. Okay, so vitamin D improved. And let's see what we have next. Vitamin D, glucose, heavy metals. Okay, my T3. I'm only bringing this up just because the truth of the matter is, from the rest of these, GLP-1 doesn't fix everything. It doesn't. And I still have low thyroid. It's slightly better than it was. I recently just had this test done at a different facility and it's still a 2. So I still need to keep working on that thyroid medicine. We're looking at maybe switching it up some more and just keep working on that. So it doesn't fix everything. This is an interesting one. Okay, so I brought this up. I just had this tested. And why did I bring this up? Because when you're on T3 medication, it drives up your sex hormone binding globulin. And I want you to know this because of the next labs I'm going to show you. Because if you didn't know that T3 increases this, which increases the next ones, you would be celebrating with me. But it's not totally something to celebrate. So the T3 increases SHBG production in the liver. And the more SHBG, the more testosterone starts happening. But you don't get to feel it because the sex hormone binding globulin is grabbing onto it. So I still feel low T, even though in the next labs I'm going to show you my testosterone actually went up. I still feel low libido, fatigue, reduced muscle tone, because it's just the sex hormone binding globulin is grabbing onto it. But it did go up. So did my free and my total. They did go up. But I think I have a meeting with my hormone and thyroid lady. I'm going to guess we need to get this up more because of the sex hormone binding glob. That 200 is pretty damn high. Pretty darn. Sorry. Okay. Next, I'm just going to show you guys my cholesterol. Part of this I'm showing people because if you're a non-carnivore, the first thing that you ask is, well, gosh, are you going to have a heart attack with your cholesterol? I don't think any of my numbers are significant They're all within range. I don't know if they necessarily say anything at all. Some of them have come down. That's actually pretty normal on a GLP-1 just because we've improved our insulin resistance. We've improved the insulin resistance that drives up some of the numbers. That having enhanced insulin sensitivity really reduces the VLDL and lowers the LDL. Triglyceride levels drop. Lower inflammation means better lipid metabolizing. So, and improved liver function. And we're going to see some of these numbers low. According to the functional, some of these actually might be a little too low, but I don't know if it's significant. What I did to look this up is I have Dr. Barry's Common Sense Labs book. And so I just looked in there and he has a note on it and it says, we do not believe that a true optimal level has been established to fit all scenarios. Evaluating impact of LDL is the best view with a multifactorial lens as a risk calculation takes multiple issues into account simultaneously. I don't know if it's significant, but I'll just show you guys, I do not have high cholesterol. And here's what's really interesting is the ones in 2023 where it's really high, I was actually taking a binder for my biotoxin illness that lowers cholesterol. So it's kind of interesting. Now, some people would say some of the cholesterols are actually, it's good to have cholesterol, but okay, so MMP9, I'm going to tell you about that in a second. But as you can see here, 2 years ago, it was a 491. It's come down a little bit. MMP9 is a cytokine marker. So if you have elevated MMP9, it means cytokines are trapped in your tissues and they're causing systematic inflammation. And this inflammation can cause brain fog, fatigue, chronic pain, respiratory issues, GI inflammation. It plays a role in the blood-brain barrier permeability, which links to the neurological symptoms. And so they say a normal level is 332 or less. Higher than a 332 suggests that you have some abnormal inflammation. Over 900 is actually a more severe case of SIRS. And so when we see that mine is 412, it is higher than the 332, but it's not 900. But we're getting away from 500. So I feel like that's a positive. Okay, C-reactive protein is a marker of systematic inflammation. A conventional lab wants you under a 10. Functional labs want you under a 1. And I was, in 2024, I was still under a 1. I was a 0.82. And I just had this run like a couple days ago, and now I'm less than 0.1. So I have no C-reactive protein. I mean, so it's gone down. It wasn't even bad before, but it's gone down more. Okay, so this next one is kind of, I probably shouldn't have ended on this one because like I said, I told you guys all my symptoms that got better. There's so many symptoms that absolutely got better. I'm not peeing all the time. My inflammation's down. I'm not having these wild swings. I'm not having perimenopause. I'm not having chronic weight gain. I have so much more brain power. There's so many things that are so much better. I am pretty much sleeping through the night most of the time. The sleep quality needs to be worked on, but I am not waking up 25 times a night peeing like I was before a GLP-1. I don't know if I mentioned that, but now sometimes maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, I get up to go pee and I fall right back to sleep. So much has improved, but there's one marker, not so much. So this next one I'm going to show you is called a TGF beta 1. And this is a regulatory cytokine, a potent regulatory cytokine. And when it's elevated and it keeps rising, it signals chronic immune activation and tissue remodeling. So here was me when I started carnivore diet. So I think this was done April 2023, I think. And this is April 2024. So you see, even though I'm carnivore, it had gone from 5,900 to 8,400. And then now it's a 14,495. So that's not good. If we were to look at functional levels, you want under a 2,000 to be normal. 2,000 to 3,500 is a mild elevation. 3,500 to 10,000 is chronic inflammatory response syndrome. You have SIRS. Anything over 10,000 is a severe case of SIRS and fibrotic disease. So I don't want to cry, but I've got some digging I got to keep doing. GLP-1 is not a miracle cure-all for everything. However, it has been an amazing tool to even just get the freedom to not have to wake up every single morning battling my weight is like the biggest gift I could have ever got. I applied for the Biggest Loser hoping that would be the ticket. I had gastric bypass hoping that would be the ticket. I did all the half marathons and the tracking. I thought that would be if I just worked hard enough, I would stop battling weight gain. But even Lion Diet, a month into Lion Diet, my body just blew up, even though I was still tracking and exercising and doing all the things. So to get to wake up every day and not wake up thinking, today is the day I'm going to win over my weight. Instead, I just wake up and I go, what's for breakfast? What are we going to do today? To like the gift of, instead of every single day having to be about weight, because otherwise I'm going to be 330 pounds again. Because I don't know if I mentioned this, but my highest was 200 pounds more than I am today. To not have to battle regaining that 200 pounds, to not have to wake up with that battle every single day is such an amazing gift. To not have to battle my brain, like having the intrusive thoughts, not being really able to handle anything, having all the hormone issues. It's a gift. To get to focus on sleep, trying to improve the quality of my sleep. I'm sleeping through the night. And, if only I could have better quality. Like, what a gift to have to work on that instead. So I still have something going on, and I don't know what it is, but I'm going to keep working on the root. And in the meantime, I am so freaking grateful for the tools that I have. Carnivore, my family, a clean space to live. We've cleaned out we've gotten rid of our plastic. This is glass. Even the straw is glass. I worked on having cleaner ingredients around me, cleaner food around me. My friendship circle is very, very clean. I don't surround myself with toxic people anymore. Like there's so much cleaning that's happened, and I got to just keep narrowing it down and figure out the root and hope that some of these things, some of like the TGF beta 1 starts turning the other direction. In the meantime, like I said, I'm so grateful to have this tool. So if you are out there struggling and you have no idea what to do and you feel like you need more tools, maybe it's not even GLP-1, maybe it's BPC 157, maybe it's an oral bioregulator, maybe you need a hormone specialist to work with. We have one in our group. We have a provider we work with to get people optimized on their thyroid and their hormones, and they can get you peptides. And join our community at radicallyhealthy.com. We have a free community. Anybody can sign up, and it has a resources tab. I post almost all resources are in the free community. You can have, companionship. It's unfiltered. I do also have a Facebook group. However, those are being deleted every single day. And so you can join that, but we can't actually have open conversations there. I can't tell you where I'm getting things there. We can't talk about dosing. We can't talk about anything there. We can't give any advice, or the group could just be shut down any minute, or just for simply being a GLP-1, a group that talks about that, it could just be deleted. So join radicallyhealthy.com. If you need another level of support, we have a private community where we do 8 support calls per month. There's also multiple printable journals that one of them is blank and one of them has multiple meal plans in there to help you dip into a calorie deficit and come back out. It's very versatile, super easy. It's very clean. You're not making like crazy recipes here. Like we're just talking like meats and dairy, and there's a non-dairy plan. And then there's multiple workouts in the journal. There's at least 4 different workouts. You can do them at home, at the gym. There's also mindset pieces and just the whole picture to try to get you to stay on track as you try to battle and heal and just get better every single day. There's more in there. There's videos in there that I haven't released to the public. So either way, we would love to have you at radicallyhealthy.com and help you get more tools if you need them. So thank you so much for tuning in today. If you could please do me a favor, like, subscribe, and share this, I'd be so grateful. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.